everybody, it's Felicia and this is my podcast. Welcome. This is Felicitations. It's my podcast. I might sound a little bit weird because I'm on a different microphone. I am also in a different room entirely. I am in the back room of my house instead of my office. Why? Porque? Well, let me tell you. I tore my garage down. I think did I mention this? So I've been saving for about 5 or 6 years to build one room above the garage in my house. I needed another bedroom. I have a very small house in Los Angeles, and there's only 2 bedrooms in it, and I can't have family come and visit. And since my baby is here, my family wants to come and see us, and getting hotel rooms are very expensive in the area. Airbnbs are not particularly great around, and also it's just like nobody wants to come for more than 2 days. So I was like, okay. Years ago, I was like, okay, this is going to be a good idea, and the pressure was notched up when the baby came. So finally, it took 18 months for me to get the permits and everything and find a contractor and get the permits. It took actually 6 months just to wait for DWP, which is the Water Power Department, to come and inspect the line from the power line to the addition to make sure there was enough linear feet between it. I can't even tell you how enraged it is. It actually cost me quite a lot of money because it took so long that we folded over to January 1st, and then I had to build a whole new sewer line. Anyway, I'm resentful and angry, and we finally I was like, tear it down. I used a sledgehammer once on a wall, and it was very satisfying. So anyway, that's going on. And so basically, the office I used to stream from and record from and do all my work from is now literally, it's not there. Like there's like scaffolding, and my doors are still there because they're so heavy they can't move them. So yeah, that's what's happening. So I am set up in the back of my house. If you guys have watched The Guild, you might recognize the room that I'm in right now from Fox. Will Wheaton's character, Fox, was a kind of a dark, kind of gloomy, very like sort of wooden cave kind of thing, and that's where I am. It's kind of cold back here because there's not as much insulation as the rest of the house. It's kind of like this old addition, but it has a bookcase in it, so I'm not going to like do anything in this room because it's perfect. It has a floor-to-ceiling bookcase. So anyway, I'm set up shop for about 5 months in here. Then I will have my office back downstairs, and then I'll have a small room upstairs with 1 bedroom. And it will be really great. It's always been my dream to have a little place for my family to stay in, and apart from the house, because I don't like strangers in my house, even if I've been related to them my whole life. And that's it. So, but it has been quite stressful. I had to get a pod in to move all the furniture out, and the house is strewn with baby stuff because Clappy wanted her refrigerator. She wanted, her little play kitchen. She wanted her train table. So, like, literally every room in the house. It's not a huge house, and so there's just crap everywhere. I mean, you have a child. It's just, I always look at people. I'm like, oh, your child only has one room in this house. You must just be a ruthless person. It's fine. No judgy on anybody. Do what you want as long as you treat your kids right. So that's what I've been dealing with for the last week, and just taking little progress reports outside, and it's been really fun. Just a little reminder that this is Felicitations on iTunes and all the places you can get free podcasts. So go ahead and subscribe and leave a review if you have a review place to add it. It really helps me find new people. And if you like my work, go to apple.co/voyage if you'd like to download Voyage to the Stars, which is the improvised sci-fi podcast that I act on. We have a lot of really funny shows lately. Got a couple people from The Office that guest starred on it. Angela Kinsey and Oscar Nunez, and I don't know, it's really super fun. So check it out. And we're wrapping up season 2 pretty soon. We're hoping for another season. So your ear holes really help. And so anyway, yeah. So back to the podcast. I moved the office, and it's really cool, and I'm just really excited. And the minute I tore down that office, y'all, everything started happening, good and bad. I've been working on some projects for like 18 months. I'm not even kidding. And one of them fell through, and then another one I just kind of off the cuff did with a friend, and that might actually happen. And a lot of these things are just, guys, I get hired to do things, and Hollywood has me develop them, and then nothing happens. So I think I've gotten to the point where I'm not disappointed when things fall through, because I'm just I don't expect anything ever to happen in Hollywood for me. And I work plenty, and I do a lot of really fun stuff, but like, the odds of getting anything actually seen by anybody are very slim. So that's why I'm really working on a couple of things that I know you guys will see later this year, and that's going to be super, super fun. I have an acting job that I'm excited to share with you guys pretty soon. That'll be out in April, and then another one in May. So a couple of things there, and this huge writing project will be this summer. So stay tuned. And it is really, I've always dealt with rejection in a very bad way, and I think being homeschooled and not being rejected at all until I was like much older was maybe a little softer and squishier inside. But I feel like finally, after working on myself and getting my health under, my anxiety a little bit more, who am I kidding? It's still a little out of control, but it's way better now. And so it makes me, when you're rejected in a business way, it doesn't mean that you're being rejected in a personal way. And especially when you're creative, it's hard to just not take that to heart. Like, oh my gosh, they're rejecting my work. That means they think I'm a bad person. Because if you're an artist, you're putting your heart and soul into everything. But you have to, acknowledge that when someone purchases your art, that is a business transaction. And so they're treating your art as business, and you can't do that as an artist. But then you have to kind of put on your business hat and be like, okay, their business did not need my art. Moving on to another business who needs my art. Whether those people are a single consumer at a con or just a huge business conglomerate that, has thousands of shows on the air. So it's all good. I'm just really working on balancing my output so that I'm working on something that's really true to me, but also then I do the Hollywood thing to help support my baby and, support my career. And hopefully maybe get something really cool done on a bigger level one day. So I'm feeling very optimistic about this year, actually. Last year was very rough, but this year is much better. So shout out to the conventions that I'm doing this year. I've announced several more are coming. I'll be doing about 8 of them this year. I will be going to Clexacon on April 16th to 18th. I gave a shout out to that one in Vegas. There is an Unannounced European Con that may be happening, and I will be announcing that on my social media in the next couple weeks. Phoenix Fan Fusion in May 22nd to the 24th. I haven't been to that con in probably 7 years, so I'm really looking forward to a lot of you showing up there. And Supernatural Convention in Chicago I am going to be doing in June. So that's all that I have announced right now. And like I said, I have like 4 more coming, and that will be very nice. Getting out of the house is very exciting. I haven't flown in like 3 months, and after that book tour I did in October or whatever, I was okay to give up my wings in a little bit, but now I'm kind of like, I'm kind of itching to go. I think I'll be doing a panel at PAX East in a couple weeks, but I'm not really sure if that's confirmed yet, so just check my socials. It'll be in and out, so I'll let you guys know. So that's it. All of that is, so the last couple weeks has been moving and all that, and writing. I have 1 more week left on this humongous writing project. If you've seen me on the Discord complaining a lot, that's it. But I've been actually enjoying myself the last month because I was able to bring in a couple friends to kind of help me massage what I have and like polish it off. It's the longest thing I've ever written. And I'm really excited about it. So more info on that soon. But just artistically, I feel really like in a good place. Like I'm just really going to put my foot down and just work on things that I really, really love, whether they get seen or not. That's the only thing. And I also got my friend a job the other day, which is like the most rewarding thing. I was having a real crappy day business-wise, and just the idea that I helped my friend, hooked him up with a job and a perfect job for him. It really just made the whole month. I got to tell you. They say those cheesy little platitudes like, being generous is so much, it's great for your brain and your body, but it really is true. It activates a part of your brain that kind of gets you off out of your own head. So anyway, and that's it. I also went to a gelato making class. It was my Christmas gift, and my friends Annie and Raiko and Natalia and Adam, we all went, and I learned how to make gelato, which was super fun. Even more super fun was eating it afterwards. We made stracciatella, and we made some pistachio that was literally the best stuff I've ever had in my life. Oh my God, it was so delicious. And it was cool because it wasn't that complicated. It just was like cream and sugar and milk and flavoring, and then you put it in the machine. It wasn't that complicated, but just seeing kind of the back of a kitchen was really fun. The woman who ran it was Italian, and she and her husband were in the film industry, and then they moved here for him to become a professor. And then she licensed this gelato company and just opened up one of the first ones in the United States. So it's in I can't remember the name of it. Fata Morgana, that's it. Fata Morgana, which is, I think, a word in Italian that I probably should know. But anyway, it's delicious. And she's so artistic. She comes up with all these really fascinating new flavors, which is, I don't know. I mean, I sampled them all. And I got pretty sick afterwards because I haven't been eating as much sugar. And my stomach has been so much better, you guys. I think I was talking about this on my stream the other night, that I did a consultation with a gastroenterologist, and he recommended some herbs that I could take. And I'm always skeptical of that because it's not regulated by the government. But if I'm going to an accredited doctor who has a very good reputation as the doctor, the stomach doctor part, and then he's recommending, hey, try these herbs because this could help. So I've been on digestive enzymes and ashwagandha for stress, and some kind of like magnesium for sleep and pooping, and it's good. I'm just telling you guys, go to the doctor. A couple of other things I did this week tie into a couple of questions that I'll already get into, a couple of them. Natasha Lee asked me, do you still find time to play the occasional board game? If so, what have you played lately? Did you ever try Gloomhaven? Well, Natasha, I hate to say it, but I hadn't played a board game in like 6 months. But I had to move all my board games out of my office, and I got rid of some of them that I was like, I'll never play those. And I made room for more, and I'm so excited because I went to a friend's board game party, and this guy knows what he's doing. He has every single board game, and a lot of them I hadn't heard of because I kind of been out of the loop because tabletop has been off. So, my business has not been knowing what board games are out there as much, and I really feel sad about that. There's a local game store that's pretty near where I go to work sometimes, and every time I pass it, I feel like I'm a longing to what I used to belong to. So just going to that one night was so fun, and I learned about so many new games. So what did we play? Okay, so we played, I played Azul, which is not a new game, but it's a really fun game. It's a tile board game where you put like Portuguese or Spanish concrete tiles down. It's really, it's one of those games like Sagrada or Splendor, which you can teach to a new person super easily, but if you want to play the game well, it requires a lot of strategy. And I think Azul is actually more strategic than the other two. So highly recommend it because experienced gamers would love it, but also people who are brand new will like it because it's pretty and it's easy to pick up just the rules. We also played this game called Hadara, which is really cool because you're building a civilization. So it's kind of like a little like Agricola meets Civilization, the video game. So you're building a civilization and you're kind of like choosing where you put your points. So you kind of have to go for a warfare victory or like a culture victory or an artistic victory. So, and there's like 9 rounds of cards and it's really beautiful. I think it's a Z-Man game, which all of their stuff always looks really great. So this is a really fun game. There's a little bit of complicated stuff just you get over the hump. If you get over the hump of it, you're going to be great. So very fun game, very pretty. I think it's 4 or 5 players and really great. And then we played this game called AMUL, which I loved even more because it was a deck building game and it's basically shopping. So like everybody goes shopping for cards and then you're building a deck and at the end it's, basically adding up the points. But there's so many different ways to build a deck and like I did one strategy and then another person did a completely different strategy. I was basically just like a hoarder strategy. I just bought as many objects as possible. Another person bought as many soldiers as possible. Another person did clan points. So again, one of those games that when you open the box, it looks intimidating because there's so many cards. But once you get the hang of it, you just do rounds of shopping and it's so much fun. I really liked it. It was a really interesting flavor of game. It was kind of like this ancient sort of, marketplace kind of thing. And I just really liked this game. And then the last game I played that I really wanted to give a shout out to was this game called Photosynthesis. And I don't even want to say anything about the gameplay. I was actually watching somebody play, but I literally ordered it when I left because it is it is one of the most beautiful games I have seen. It's a tree game. So it's basically there are all these different trees and it's a 3-dimensional board. So the trees stick up a couple inches. So just the aesthetics of the board are so gorgeous. I just fell in love with it and I had to buy it. as I watched people play, because it was a really big, it was a place where like 4 or 5 tables were going at the same time. So Natasha, as soon as my office is put back together, I am devoting myself to another board game night, because I really, really miss it. In your question, you asked specifically, did you ever try Gloomhaven? And I have that huge, huge box. And I literally, when I was cleaning up my office, I was like, oh no, I have this huge box still, and I still haven't played this. And I almost started crying because I was like, I did a lot of business around board games and video games and things like that. But the only reason I did it because I just loved them so much. I just wanted to share it with people. And like, it was never about business. And I say that because I'm not very good at business, It was only just about sharing my enthusiasm for these things and getting people to love it as much as I did and have it enrich their life, which, we did a lot with tabletop and all the things we did at Geek and Sundry. I'm not sure, I don't know anyone at that company anymore, and I don't really know what they're doing. I don't really follow them, actually, because I just needed to separate myself emotionally. But my desire is to kind of work in that world a little bit more, or at least play in it, is very high. And so just scratching that itch with that one night, oh my gosh, it was so fun. Okay, what else have I talked about? Oh. Well, another question actually ties into my consuming of stuff this week. Squishy Fish asks, hey Felicia, what is the most obscure subject you've ever been interested in, obsessed by? Short term or long term? Okay, well, Squishy Fish. Well, I mean, it's not obscure. World of Warcraft is probably my longest obsession. But this latest obsession with Greek literature is like, it will not let go. I'm so sorry. I'm still streaming Assassin's Creed or Odyssey. I love that game so much. And I have continued to be obsessed with Greek mythology to the point where I bought this I bought this book called Homeric Moments by Eva Brann. And she's like a professor who has literally taught the Iliad and the Odyssey for 45 years. And she has a very like whimsical, very light quality to her writing. And so it's not too like textbooky. And she points out all these little tiny things in the Odyssey and the Iliad that you never would know unless you had somebody literally studying it from the original language and sharing all these little moments. The most interesting thing that I've read in this book is that, some of the words that people have translated, right? The original have like double meanings. So they would use a word that meant anger but also sorrow at the same time from the ancient Greek. But of course, our translation will only have one of those words, right? So somebody would have to pick. So when she's like highlighting how some of these moments are a lot more complicated than the original writing, I find it really fascinating. So that's really cool. And then I on impulse, because I was kind of confused about like, once you go deep into Greek history and Greek mythology, coming from the histories and all the texts we have, I was just confused about when people were born and like, was this happening before the Odyssey or was this happening after? And so I bought this amazing thing that was just impulse called The Genealogy of Greek Mythology. And it's by Vanessa James. And I didn't even know what I was getting. I thought it was just like a fold out thing. This thing is huge. It's like 60 pages. So it accordions out to like the length of a room. And I'm not even kidding with you. And one page is all about the gods. And the other page is all about the humans. And so it's really fascinating because it really is the fabric of a whole history and mythology. Like, I don't know how everyone coordinated together to kind of build on this. Oh, okay, so everybody knows about, Odysseus, and everybody knows about Agamemnon, and then his brother and their brothers all have a story, and then their grandfathers, and then they're from this river god, and that, that nymph, and that weird wind god, stole that woman. And it's fascinating because, in the history, they kind of built this architecture of like where everyone came from. And so everyone belonged to this family in a sense. It was very, monolithic and polytheistic. So it's really fascinating. And so basically I just sit there to relax at night, right before I go to bed. I'm trying to just decompress, and I start looking through this, genealogical tree, and I'll just stumble upon somebody's name, and then I'll Wikipedia that, and then I'll be like, whoa, they were turned into a, wildebeest? Why? They were turned into air? Boy, that's a deep cut. And so I'll just kind of go down a Wikipedia, rabbit hole from like one of the branches or one person that I just Google and see who's this person. So I can't say, I can say that I haven't retained a lot of the names, okay? So I need to say them out loud more so I'll actually remember that Philotectes. I mean, I've only remember, is it Philotectes or whatever, his name, because I actually, I did the riffs on the MST3K Hercules movie, and so that character Philoctetes was in. I'm saying it wrong, I'm sure, but anyway, he was in the movie, so people were screaming his name, and I was looking in the tree. I was like, why do I know this guy's name so well? So anyway, Heracles was horrible, truly horrible person. Like a lot of, just so many women killing and raping and kidnapping, and like it is not a good period to be a lady back then. I mean, there are not many that you can pick out like, yeah, that was a good era for women, before now. But wow, was it bad back then? And so, and actually read an article about feminism in Greek mythology or Greek history or during the times of the Greek civilization. And there's a whole book, and I wish I had picked out some of the quotes because I read this on like a Wayback Machine printout. But literally, there are so many quotes of like incels back in ancient Greece. Like, women aren't only good for one thing, and that's, burying them under the ground. Like, crazy. No, I mean, I actually think it was that bad. So this whole book kind of like highlights like how horrible men thought of women back then. And you kind of see that like it's reflected in some, and also how in Sparta was actually the one place in ancient Greece that you wanted to be a woman. Like, you would not be married off at 14. You'd be married off at 18 instead, maybe. And so that kind of made me think about Helen in a different way, because like she's actually from this really liberated, women being a lot more equal and free relatively than everywhere else in Greece. So kind of made you think like, oh, maybe she was like, screw this guy, I'm out of here and I'm taking the treasure too, in the Odyssey. So anyway, that's my latest obsession. I don't know if I'll have another book that I've read outside of this. I will read The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo at one point, but probably not before I get through my genealogy. And I'm only on like page 30, and it's like the accordion. I've only done one side of the accordion. It's amazing. If you have any interest in it, it's an amazing resource. Okay, so sorry if there's any extra noise and it doesn't sound good. Leave me some feedback on the Discord, discord.gg/FeliciaDay. If you have any problems with the sound on this, I might just record on my mic from now, on my phone from now on, if this mic doesn't sound good. It's my streaming mic, but it sounds a little tinny to me, so I don't know. All right, I've got a little bit of questions. And I just wanted to share that I got Calliope into a preschool, guys. Yay! She got admitted. And in LA, that's actually quite hard. There's one school, a couple of schools I won't name, but a couple of schools that literally they have a 12 slots and 300 applicants, 300, 400 applicants. So just for a preschool. So people literally put their children on lists when they are born to get into certain preschools that they want to be into. And you're interviewed. So you have to like be screened out. You can't just like go up and they're not like happy for you. They're like, yeah, we'll see you. We'll interview you. Sometimes they won't even interview you. So it's kind of crazy here. But there was one place that I really liked, and my friend, I've been trying to go to events for the last couple of years at, and I literally saw the place and I didn't even interview anywhere else. I was like, okay, this is it. I always go on my gut like that, and I'm so glad we got in. She's going to go 4 half days a week, which is like scary for me, but also like I'm so excited for her because she's like a real person now, and I want her to be challenged, and I want her to get on along with other children, which she does not now do. She's like, I do not want to hang out with other children. I only want you, Mama. And I'm like, thanks. Anyway, okay, let's do some questions before I wrap it up. Praneet Malvia asks, thanks for answering my question about the acting roles in the last podcast. You're welcome. I love Codex and Charlie. What is your comfort food and why? Is there any story behind that food? Mine is anything made of chocolate. I guess I love cake. And I think I said this in my Embrace Your Weird book, that when I was a kid, making a cake was a refuge. I was homeschooled, and I don't know if I can really convey to you guys how weird my upbringing was. Like, I never saw other children. I never went anywhere without my mother pretty much near me until I was like an adult. And I didn't really have, people around to like play and goof off around except for my brother. And we weren't even that close, We were very two different people, and we're very close now, but it was just weird. And I think, I underestimate the difference socialization-wise that I experienced from other normal or people, which is fine. Like, we're all different, and that's what's wonderful about it. And I'm pretty functional, so that's good. But basically my refuge from, kind of just the day-to-day of it would be making cakes. So the idea of like a double layer cake with some buttercream, or like even better, 7-minute frosting, that is my favorite cake. So a homemade cocoa cake with 2 layers and some 7-minute frosting. And 7-minute frosting is basically like meringue frosting. It tastes like marshmallows and it's so delicious. And it really is pretty easy. You just have to mix egg whites and sugar and vanilla and some cornstarch in a double boiler above some boiling water, and it just fluffs up to the most delicious. I'm like really hungry right now. So that's what is my comfort food, because that was like my go-to as a kid. Okay, about what up XPCT asks, would you rather have total creative control or have further reach working on your projects within a larger organization? Well, this is a very good question and one I grapple with every day. That's why I wrote a book last year, because I was so frustrated with Hollywood. I was like, I just have to make something that's only me and I need to release it to the world. And so Embrace Your Weird really was me kind of rebelling against Hollywood, because I feel like I've sort of been chained up in a way where, I've been developing things, but then you get to a point as an artist where you're just thinking about the things that people will buy versus the things that you really want to do in your heart. And I think that's really dangerous. But something that, this industry encourages. So, art is for hire here. And so basically I'm selling, my abilities to make art for someone. It's almost like commissioning, right? But that's artists everywhere. You can't just, you could be an artist that just makes in your, basement and never shows it to people and never sells it and can just be, independently wealthy and just, do all that. I mean, that's one way to do it. But in other ways, if you have another job and that's just your hobby, that's a totally valid way to do it. But, I want to, make my living and I want a career in this business. So, all that sort of like rebelling against the system kind of thing, I just try to balance out with the things I'm working on. So a couple of things I'm working on right now are just like me all the way. And it's just like I'm doing it on my own. And then some of them are me going out and trying to sell ideas. And, sometimes those ideas sell and you'll never see them. And then sometimes they won't sell. And then I would have worked on it for nothing. But as long as I'm balancing out what I love and what I want to sell, that's basically what I'm trying to do. And I think for the first time in my career, I'm balancing it pretty well. But, that could change next week. Chris French asks, how did it feel to have yourself and your book be an answer on Jeopardy? Yes, you guys, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but I was on Jeopardy. Ken Jennings got my name right, and my face was on it. And it was just like, it was such a thrill, you guys. And I was having a particularly low day that day. Like, I guess I'll just hang it up. I could open a coffee shop. I don't know. And then that happening and just my phone blowing up with my friends. I'm like, I know that's external gratification that I shouldn't have my ego involved in at all. But it was like a reminder that I've accomplished a lot in life. And that's something that I should be appreciative of about myself. So yes, thank you. Rebel Winchester asks, what's Charlie Bradbury's Hogwarts house? It is Ravenclaw, for sure. She's a Ravendor, I think, though, because she was a Ravenclaw with a Gryffindor inside, and that's what Sam and Dean brought out in her. So she's a Gryffindor only because Sam and Dean kind of gave her the keys to do that, and that's why I love about her character. And who inspired you most? Rebel Winchester asks. Well, that's a really easy question to answer, because I just was thinking about that the other day, because I think you have to know, like in my book, I say you have to know your mentors and your inspirations and role models. And I was like, oh, you really need to dig down and be like, who do you admire? And I really admire Rachel Bloom and Issa Rae and Amy Poehler, because they're performers who are actors, but they also write, and they made their own path, because no way were they going to make it through the system the traditional way. And I think that's so amazing. And that's really, when I look at my own career, those are the things that I'm most gratified about and appreciate myself for. So when, really defining their paths as something that I'd like to follow in the footsteps of, is that, that's really been important. And my baby inspires me. And I know that's really dorky, but she really does, because she reminds me that nothing else external is really important other than just caring about the people you care about. And the last question is from Joey Couture. Of all the books you have read in your life, what is one title or series you wish you had a pristine edition of as a display piece in your home? This is a very interesting question. I mean, like, oh boy, the original Wizard of Oz is super, super, having like a first edition of Wizard of Oz, that would be kind of badass. I really don't like collecting things in general. I'm not a collector. If I have something in my house, it needs to be useful. I don't like just displaying things, really, unless it's work that fans have given me. I have some special fan art I put on just to kind of be like, hey, that's beautiful. And So, but there are things, there's something called the Folio Society, and they make beautiful editions of certain books. And like, to me, they're like collection goals. So I do have like 3 of their fairy books. So there's a series of fairy books, like the colored fairy books. So like the red fairy book and the lilac fairy book and the green fairy book. And so I have 2 or 3 of these, and I'm just collecting them for myself. Like I treat myself a couple times a year to one of them so I can get the whole collection. And they're so beautiful. And as a kid, I remember having a couple of these and reading like Bluebeard and the original and thinking like, oh my God, why did my mother let me read this? They're like horribly violent and age inappropriate and like really bad. But I think because it had fairy tales on the front, she was like, okay, great, you can get those from the library at 7. So anyway, and Calliope is one of those people who like really loves monsters, so I'm like reading her fairy tales, but like not the traditional fairy tales because princesses suck in those. But I am reading her like Perseus and like brothers, some of the Brothers Grimm with the animals in it, and like I'm always trying to be like, and Goosey Lucy, escaped from the other side instead of being like torn apart by a fox. So anyway, that series of books kind of reminds me of why I love storytelling and why I'm kind of horror and I can't watch horror films. All right, anyway, that's my podcast this week. Thanks you guys for the support. Thanks for liking my work. I know it's a little rambly. I'm in a different room, so hopefully I'll get back on track in a couple of weeks and be able to update you on different things besides Greek mythology and dangling things that I'm working on that I can't talk about. Okay, thanks for your support. I will see you guys later. Bye!